Okay, so now it's time to start. Let's have opening prayer. Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us to this new week. Please be with us this day and this week and help us to glorify you all the time. Give us more understanding of the present truth. And please always be with us and continue to bless us. And thank you for sending your Son to die on the cross for our sins. And thank you for forgiving us for all of our sins. And please be with us while we have this meeting today. In Jesus' name, amen. So welcome everybody to the meeting. Today is November 24th, and this is meeting number 7. We're the Flucuses, and I think that's all I'm supposed to say. Oh, and today's meeting is called the repeating pattern.
Okay. So, has anybody here ever shared anything about the message to anybody they know? Or, yeah, anybody don't know. Has anybody shared the message?
No, I haven't shared any.
Okay. Well, we know if we just passed the waymark of midnight, and we're coming up to the midnight cry, which is in 2 years, and we know that then we're going to have to take the message to the Levites. So we should be preparing and learning the message, so we'll be able to share the message with the other youth, which are going to be the Levites and the adults. So, yes. And that waymark is coming up in 2021, so we should prepare and be ready to share the message with others so they can join the message, and those are the Levites.
And then the net.
Yeah, did the Nethinims after that.
Mm-hmm. So the title of today's lesson is the repeating pattern. So since 1989, the movement have been using the line upon line methodology. We have seen that all Bible stories follow the same pattern, and we line them up to learn more about our time. We have come to recognize 5 lines in our time, of which have to do with people, 4 have to do with people, and the other one has to do with institutions. Lately, in this movement, we have learned to break our lines up into sections or dispensations. The dispensations are easy to see in connection with the agricultural model. These dispensations follow the same pattern, so we can line them up. This new understanding also gives us more waymarks and thus lets us see where we are in history and what's happening along the line. So this from Midlife history, we have the dispensation from July 21st to October 22nd. And on July 21st, Samuel Snow first presented the Midnight Cry message in Boston. And then we know he next presented it in Concord, which was August 1st. And then in Exeter, which is what we normally call the Midnight Cry, on August 15th. And then he was predicting the shut door, which happened on October 22nd, 1844.
We call it the Midnight Cry, but we can also call it Exeter the Loud Cry.
So he presented it first in Boston on July 21st. And then at the end of the dispensation, we have October 22nd, 1844, which was the closed door. But we know there are 2 waymarks in the middle. The first of them was Concord, which is when Sam Snow presented the Midnight Cry message on August 1st. And the second is Exeter, which is when he presented the Midnight Cry message on August 15th in the camp meeting. So we see a pattern: Boston, Concord, Exeter, and then the shut door.
Okay, so the first dispensation in Millerite history started at their time of the end, which was 1798, and goes to August 11th, 1840. In 1798, the book of Daniel was unsealed, and William Miller was raised up to give the message. Miller conducted a 2-year study which ended in 1818. This was an increase of knowledge according to Daniel 8:14. His study showed that Christ would return in 1843. 15 years later, in 1833, William Miller received his credentials to preach. His message was formalized. Now people began to hear and be tested on the message. The dispensation ended with the fulfillment of Josiah Litch's prediction. So August 11th was the fulfillment of Josiah Litch's prediction. Previously, Litch had taken Miller's methodology and applied it to other scriptures. The result was a prediction of the fall of the Ottoman Empire on August 11, 1840. The Ottoman Empire fell on that date, and that confirmed Miller's methodology. So, in 1798, William Miller was raised up to give the message, and the message was unsealed. That's 1798. In 1840, August 11th, at the end of the dispensation, we saw that the Ottoman Empire fell, and since Josiah Litch had made a prediction using Miller's methodology, therefore that when it was fulfilled, Miller's methodology was confirmed. So that's the first dispensation of the Millerites. But in between that dispensation, we have the waymark of 1818, but we can also mark 1816 at that same waymark. It's just a 2-year space. And that's where William Miller's 2-year study was, and he had an increase of knowledge on the book of Daniel, specifically chapter 8, verse 14. That was his increase of knowledge. And then in 1833, Miller got his credentials, and that's the same year that the stars fell, which is
Empowered.
empowered message. So we see this another time. Again, we see in between two waymarks, which is this dispensation. In between this dispensation, we see that there are two waymarks. The first one is the time of the end, which is the unsealing of a message. The second is the increase of knowledge on that message. The third is the formalization on that message that's been unsealed since the time of the end. And then the last waymark is a test. But really we can see the test starting at the formalization, because that's where people start. That's where the message is formalized, and really it's understandable. So now that it's understandable, people begin to be tested. So that's that pattern as well.
So the last dispensation on the 144,000 line is the close of probation, when Michael stands up to the second coming. At the close of probation, like I just said, Michael will stand up and his mediation will be ended for all mankind. Shortly thereafter, he will come again. But in between these two waymarks, there are two other ones. First, there is the death decree, a decree passed by the leaders of the world saying that on a certain day, all God's people, which are the 144,000 at that time, are to be killed. Before that set day, God will begin to deliver his people, and he will tell them the day and the hour of Jesus' coming. In other words, time setting. And this is the second waymark that we call the voice of God. In this dispensation, first there is the close of probation, second the death decree, third the day and the hour, the voice of God, and then the second coming. So like I said, the close of probation is the first waymark in this dispensation. You can see on the line. Then you have the second coming, which is the last waymark on this line in this dispensation. And in between you have two waymarks. First is the death decree, and then it's the voice of God. And as you can see, those are the two waymarks in the middle.
And we see that these two waymarks,
Yeah, you can go.
we see that these two waymarks can line up with the increase of knowledge, which is not Boston, increase of knowledge, which is Concord, and formalization, which is Exeter. Close probation at the beginning of this dispensation being Boston, or the message unsealed.
So this waymark would be the unsealing or Boston. The death decree would be the increase of knowledge or concord. The voice of God would be the formalization or Exeter.
And,
And
you know, and second advent would be the test.
It would be the shut door at the end of the test.
Yeah.
So we see we have three witnesses that we have three witnesses or three dispensations that shows us that there's two waymarks in the middle. The Millwright history from July 21st to October 22nd with Concord and Exeter in the middle, and also the Millwright history from 1798 to August 11, 1844 with 1818 and 1833 in the middle. So we see the pattern Boston, Concord, Exeter, shut door. And we also see the pattern unsealing, increase of knowledge, formalization, and then a test. So we can combine these two like we kind of just did. Boston is the unsealing, Concord is the increase of knowledge, Exeter is the formalization, and then there's a test until the end of that dispensation. And sometimes it's a shut door, or you can call it a shut door all the time. Sometimes it's more than others. And I guess you can say that. And so we see that now we can see this pattern in every single dispensation because we have three witnesses to show that.
And we can also see that this waymark of the voice of God, which we line up with Exeter, and the formalization, we can also call that the midnight cry or the loud cry.
Yeah, same thing as Exeter.
Okay, 1989 to 9/11. This is the first dispensation on the 144,000 line. We can also say it's the first dispensation of the priest line. We know we're the priests at the 144,000. So in 1989, our reform line begins, and that's the time of the end. We know that at the time of the end, which is 1989, there's a message unsealed, which is Daniel 11:40 through 45. And then in 1991, we can see that there's an increase of knowledge on that message, which was where Jeff Pippinger understood that Daniel 11:40 through 45, he understood it, even though the message was unsealed since 1989. And then in the formalization of this message, well, we will mark as 1996 because that's the time of the end magazine. That's where we saw that the current understanding of the message was put in a understandable form, which was the time of the end magazine. And then we see 9/11 as a test. So here we have 1989. Jeff Pippinger is raised up to give the message. 9/11 is where our methodology was confirmed. We know we didn't literally make a prediction about 9/11, but based on line upon line, we see that that our methodology was confirmed in 9/11 based on reform lines. So that's the end of this first dispensation for the priest. And so we have to see two waymarks in the middle, and in which 1991 was what is it called?
Increase.
Yeah, 1989 was Concord, which was the increase of knowledge on the message. That's the first little waymark in between. And then the second one was 1996 with the Time of the End magazine. That's the formalization or Exeter or loud cry or midnight cry. So we see that in our history, our first dispensation, we see the same pattern of two waymarks in between the first dispensation, one being the increase of knowledge and one being the formalization, leading up to a test in 2001 for this dispensation, and beginning with the message unsealed, which is 1989.
So the next dispensation is 9/11 to 2014. So the dispensation begins in 9/11 and it ends in 2014. And then as in the middle, you have the two-way marks. You have 2009 and then 2012. 2009, Elder Parminder Bryan did a very comprehensive study on the 2520 in Arkansas, and that was the increase of knowledge of the 2520. The study was called the 2520 Reveal. In 2012, he correctly predicted that there would be a Sunday law in 2014, and that he began time setting, and the 2520 was formalized, and then you see the test after that in 2014. So in 2001, the 2520 was unsealed, which is the beginning of this next dispensation. And then in 2014, you have the prediction of the Sunday law fulfilled. And the reason we have Cambridge Analytica is that's how the Sunday law came through them.
Then explain Cambridge Analytica. It's more than just the Sunday law didn't just come through them, really. It's basically they helped the Republicans, which will bring the Sunday law. That's how we see it in 2014.
And then in 2009, Elder Parminder, presented the 2520 Revealed. That's what the study was called in Arkansas. And that's Concord. And then 2012, he predicted that there would be a Sunday law in 2014. And that's Exeter.
And after that, you can really see a test how the movement was trying to most of the movement was against him. They didn't want to believe his time setting. I think it was really a prominent test, I guess, in this movement, you can say, from 2012 to 2014.
Yeah, because when there's a truth that's opened and people begin to reject it, you know that it's a test.
So, next dispensation, 2014 to November 9th, 2019. So this was, as we know, the middle dispensation for the priest. But it started in 2014 with the unsealing of a message, and the unsealing of the message in this dispensation was the Midnight Cry message. And that ended on November 9th, 2019, when obviously the dispensation is over, and so the Midnight Cry message only goes to the shut door. You get that from the parable. But in the two-way marks in the middle of 2016, which is when Elder Tess started to study the Midnight Cry message. Well, it wasn't called Midnight Cry message back then, but she started to study Acts 27 and come to understanding of that in 2016, and that is Concord, or the increase of knowledge. And then in 2018, when she teaches it, it's formalized, and after that begins the test where people decide whether they want to believe the Midnight Cry message or whether they don't want to believe the Midnight Cry message. And this dispensation ended on November 9th, or that dispensation ended on November 9th, where the door was shut, and now all of those who rejected the message are never coming back. So in 2014, she's raised up, at least prophetically raised up, to give the message, and it was unsealed, or Boston. On November 9th, the message was ended. It had come to its, I guess, point, because it was pointing to November 9th. November 9th was a shut door. 2016 was the increase of knowledge, or concord, of the Midnight Cry message. And that's when she began to study. And 2018 is when the Midnight Cry message was formalized and given and beginning in Arkansas. And like I said, after that was a test.
Okay, 2019 to 2021. We are currently living in the dispensation of 2019 to 2021. It began with the Battle of Raphael on November 9th. and it will end in the Battle of Panium in 2021. A new truth has been unsealed, and we are now waiting for its increase of knowledge and formalization. Those will be the two waymarks in the middle. After the waymark of formalization, there will be a test until Panium. So we saw that November 9th, which was like 2 weeks ago, was where a new message was unsealed. We don't exactly know what the message is yet.
We can know it's something about pain.
Yeah. So that was Boston, or the unsealing. And we know at the Midnight Cry in 2021, in which the Battle of Raphia takes place, the Battle of Panium takes place. That's the end of the dispensation we're in now. And Concord there are two waymarks in between here, since we know, and since we, based on what we've just been talking about, then we know that there are two waymarks in between in this dispensation we're in, which is Concord and Exeter. And we're currently waiting for Concord to come, which is the increase of knowledge on that message that's been unsealed at Boston 2019, which was like 2 weeks ago. And then there'll be a formalization of that message where it will be clearly, well, not clearly, yeah, clearly, it'll be in a clearly understandable way, and that's where the test will begin on that message to see whether you will accept or reject that message, leading to the closed door on that message in 2021.
So 2021 to the Sunday law. So Panium, which is in 2021, will be the beginning of the next dispensation, and it'll end at the Sunday law. And we know that there will be two waymarks in the middle, Concord and Exeter, the increase of knowledge and the formalization. So 2021 will be Panium, or the second advent for the priests, and the close of probation for the Levites, beginning of the next dispensation. And then you have the Sunday law, and it will not be a Sabbath Sunday issue, but a church and state issue.
This is the national Sunday law. We know that there are Sunday laws all on our reform line. 2014 was a Sunday law. November 9th of this year was a Sunday law. And 2021 will be a Sunday law, but this is the national Sunday law on the big 144,000 line.
Which is the end of the next dispensation. And then in between, you would have the two little waymarks, Concord and Exeter.
So, Sunday law to the close of probation is the last dispensation. Well, second to last, but we dealt with the last one at the beginning. So after the Sunday law, we know there'll be two waymarks for the close of probation. And we know already one thing that happens after the Sunday law is the loud cry. And if you think about it, the loud cry is the same thing as the midnight cry, which was Exeter. So we already know of one waymark, or one little waymark, after the Sunday law is the loud cry, or Exeter, or the formalization. So therefore we know that there's a waymark between Sunday law and the loud cry, which would be Concord, or the increase of knowledge. So those are the two waymarks in that history. It starts with Sunday law, when church and state come together more. They're already coming together. And that's Boston. And it ends at the close of probation, where Christ ends his mediation for all mankind. And in the middle, we have Concord and Exeter, which we already have as the loud cry. So Boston, Concord, Exeter, and then the close of probation.
Yeah, so now let's take another look at our dispensation. So the dispensation, which began on November 9, 2019, and will go to Panium, which is in 2021, the waymark of the midnight cry. We know there are two waymarks in the middle. So multiple witnesses, we can prove that there are two waymarks in every dispensation. You could also say two waymarks in between each big waymark, because the two waymarks are just little ones. And from other studies, we know that the counter-revolution begins in 2020. We also know that the beginning of the American Revolution can line up with the counter-revolution, which is 2020. The first battle of the American Revolution was Concord of Lexington,
And
Concord and Lexington. So the beginning of the counter-revolution is in 2020, which is the waymark of Concord and the American Revolution. Therefore, most likely that Concord will be the election November 3rd of 2020. That will start the counter-revolution as the Democrats and many other Americans will hate the fact that Trump just got reelected, because we know Trump is the last president, so he has to get reelected in this upcoming election. The next waymark in the dispensation will be Exeter, or the formalization, where we will get the date for the Battle of Panium, and where we will see more prominent prophetic activity in the United States. So in summary, we saw for our dispensation, the one that we're currently in, we know that Concord, which is the next waymark that we're about to come up to, is 2020. It's most likely the presidential election, since we know that another Concord, which was 2016, was the presidential election. And since we know that it's the beginning of the counter-revolution and the American Revolution, probably most likely the election is Concord. It will make everybody mad that Trump got reelected and begin the counter-revolution. So this is Boston, Concord, Exeter, and our history. Well, it's our history, yeah, but our dispensation, the one we're currently in. We see Boston 2019, Concord 2020, Exeter, we don't have the date for that yet, but it has to be somewhere between 2020 and 2021. And then we see lastly the Midnight Cry, the Battle of Panium, the end of the dispensation we are in as 2021. And we see the same repeating pattern, Boston, Concord, Exeter, increase, formalization, test, and shut door at the end. So that's our the dispensation we are currently in.
So, in summary, here's the whole line. So, we know that we have this repeating pattern of Boston, Concord, Exeter, and then the test or the unsealing, the increase in knowledge, and the formalization. Beginning in 1989 to 9/11, we have 1991 and 1996. From 9/11 to 2014, we have 2009 and 2012. From 2014 to 2019, we have 2016 to 2018. From 2019 to 2021, we have 2020 and then Exeter. And then from 2021 to the Sunday Law, we know we'll have Concord and Exeter. From the Sunday Law to the close of probation, we'll have Concord and Exeter, and we know Exeter is the loud cry. And from close of probation to the second advent, we'll have the death decree and the voice of God. Or when we get the day and the hour of the second coming.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about the lesson or anything they want to say about the lesson? Now's the time to ask them.
Exeter is always time. It always takes time.
Did you say something?
Yeah, did you say something?
Exeter is always time.
Huh? Repeat that, please.
Exeter is always connected with time.
Yes.
Yes.
Exeter is always connected with time. We saw 2018 was when we got the date for 2019, which was November 9th of this year. 2012 was when we got the year for 2014. And line upon line tells us that 1996, we can line that up with getting the date for 9/11.
And it was the time of the End magazine.
Yeah, the time in the End magazine. That shows that time is there at that waymark. Any comments or anybody else?
you didn't mention the voice of God, and that dispensation, the voice of God, the waymark of Exeter, and that gives you the time for the second coming.
Yeah, and it's not literally the voice of God. We know that we'll get the waymark of the second coming from the reform lines. Not God isn't literally going to tell us that Christ is coming in
You
such
say
and
like
such time,
from
like
the
the Spirit
air.
of prophecy
From the
says.
sky.
Yeah, the Spirit of prophecy says that, but we know in our history we get that from the Reformed lines. Yes.
It feels like thunder. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Does anybody have anything to share just about the Midnight Cry message?
Or any,
Or
In general?
yeah,
or any questions about it.
a comment I wanted to make is that I remember her saying that she brought up this study, or that she first presented this study, Boston Concord Exeter. She did it in Australia after
Test.
Sister Tess. She did it in Australia right after she left Arkansas. No. After France, like in December of 2018. And she said the reason she presented it was because she saw that people were not understanding and they were misapplying the truth, basically bringing fanaticism into the Midnight Cry message. So that's why she did the study of Boston, Concord, Exeter. I think to show how that the truths are, they follow a pattern so that you can't get sidetracked by other people's things, because you know that God sends truths and he tells us stuff in a certain way all the time.
I also think it's good or interesting, yes, that God always gives us. We can see it this way in our Exodus. We always get the date ahead of time, the date of the shut door, or that we can say the test, even though the test is a little bit before that. We can always get that date ahead of time, so we know to prepare. And also that we can also get other dates. Like right now, we have the date of 2020. We know that 2019 is not Exeter, so we know that all the time we can be getting dates of the future, and that can should that distinguishes us from everybody else, because we're making predictions that come true, so everybody know that our methodology is correct because our predictions come true.
I just saw something that we didn't include. I guess I can ask it as a question. In the line of the 144,000, you know the five major waymarks of 1989, 9/11, Sunday Law, close of probation, and Second Advent. And if you think about it, that leaves the dispensation from 9/11 to Sunday Law much bigger than any of the ones we have here. Matter of fact, it's the only dispensation that we don't have on here, and it's different. Does anybody know the two waymarks that are in the middle of that one?
Raffia and Pania.
Yes, that's right. That's correct. In the line of the 144,000, 9/11 is Boston, Raffia is Concord, and Panium is Exeter, and the Sunday Law is the close of probation or the end of the test. So yes, that's correct. And good job, I guess.
So we see that, and that's another proof that shows that if shows that if we say a message is unsealed in 2019, we can also see that it's the increase of knowledge on a message that has began since 9/11. So we see that there's a message since there's a message that is here since November 9th of this year, and
So a
Getting bigger.
message
Yeah.
just arrived, and a message is also being increase in knowledge.
Yeah, we
Uh-huh.
saw
Yeah.
that with the Sunday Law being not a Sabbath Sunday issue.
Yeah.
That's part of the increase in knowledge of the Sunday Law from the line of the 144,000
And the next waymark is next year.
Uh-huh.
at the end of next year.
Oh, also, remember that picture of the elephant putting the church on top of the state? That's a cool picture because the elephants, if you look in politics, the world says elephants represents Republicans and donkeys represents Democrats. So we see that the elephant was putting the church on top of the state, and we know that the Republicans are putting church on top of state. So that was a correct picture. You could say Trump was the elephant, or the Republicans in general. Picture. So thank you everybody for coming. And if you have any questions or you guess that's good. If you want the notes, questions, or updates on the recordings, not updates on the recordings, but if you want the updates on anything or recordings, just contact us at youthprophecygroup@gmail.com.
And thank you, Eric, for participating and answering the questions.
Thank you. Thank you also. And please, and can you please also send us the notes?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
So we're gonna close with prayer before we end. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day of life. Thank you for bringing us all here today and letting us learn some more of the truth. Thank you for giving us the reform lines and letting us know in advance what is to happen so that we can prepare us to be able to understand this message so that we can take it to the Levites and the Nethinims. Please continue to be with all of us today and give us the Holy Spirit and give us the power to overcome temptation so that we can be perfect now. We love you. Thank you for first loving us. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, this sign doesn't say it, but if you want the slides, you can also contact us at youthprophecygroup.
We don't send out the slides.
Yeah,
If
we
you
do.
want any of the previous slides, you can just go to what website is that?
We'll just send.
We'll just send them to you
Yeah.
if you want.
Okay, so thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you next Sunday, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.